This is chapter 3, section 1, talking about the mining and railroads in the West. So before the Civil War, most of the western United States was unsettled. There was no one there, uh, mainly just Native Americans, pretty much, west of the Mississippi. All right, so this was all kind of unsettled. There's no official states or anything like that. So America's frontier, like I said, was from the Mississippi River to the Pacific Ocean. And the people who lived out west were Native Americans, like I stated, Mexican settlers, and pioneers that went to Oregon and California in search of gold. Prospectors are people that search for mineral deposits such as gold or silver. It's these guys, they got the pan, they're looking riverbeds searching for that gold. So, fun fact here, a 49er, like the football team, is named after these prospectors that went to California during 1849, around the San Francisco area, during the first gold rush. That was like the first gold rush. They actually didn't find too much gold there. I mean, there was a little bit, but that's why they're called 49ers, because in 1849, all these people came out there, all these prospectors looking for gold. So after the Civil War, like I said, the United States is mostly unsettled in the West. Traveling to the West was not easy. You had to travel in these covered wagons. All right, if you ever played the game Oregon Trail, that's what we're talking about. It took months to travel out west. It was tough terrain. You got the mountains. It was tough moving your whole entire family and everything you had, and you slept in this covered wagon. They would suffer from many hardships: starvation, attacks by Native Americans, getting lost, disease, sicknesses. It was not until train tracks were built and the railroad was being built that the westward expansion really increased. So this westward expansion, part of it was, the search for gold and silver. So one of these such cases was this. It's called the Comstock Lode in California. It was in the Sierra Nevada mountains here in California, and it was a massive deposit of gold and silver that was discovered there by these two men. Over the next 20 years, people flocked to this area and they panned for silver and gold. But the problem was most of the gold and silver were deep underground and they couldn't reach it with the basic, pick, shovel, pan. It was too deep. It wasn't in the riverbeds and stuff like that. It wasn't until the 1880s when the mining became popular. Digging underground with heavy machinery did the mineral deposits really get discovered. So a boom town is a town where they were started because of these prospecting in this area. Something like the Comstock Lode. They would find this area that had some gold and silver. Everybody would flock to it, and they would try to dig for this gold. And it became like, so you had all these prospectors in this one area, and a town would soon as be established. It'd have a bar, restaurant, mail room, trading store. That's what it would have. And so, but law and order would be hard to establish in these towns. They were established so quickly that there was no sheriff most of the times, and so these vigilantes, these self-appointed lawmakers in the town, would be the law, and so they had no real power. They were just these people that kind of, stop these bandits and would impose harsh justice on criminals. As the towns did expand, sheriffs would be placed to keep the peace. Like I said, these boom towns would have stores, restaurants, entertainment from the mining area. So all of a sudden, gold and silver were discovered. All these prospectors came there and their families and everything like that, and the small town was established right away. So when all the minerals were mined out of the area, the town became abandoned. There, the prospectors going to move on, and everybody left, so it becomes a ghost town. That's why the word, so that term, afraid there's, oh man, it's like a ghost town in here. That means that there's no one there. So it's that just typical, you got your storefronts, that one main street, and that's what a boomtown is. They kind of threw it together really quickly, and they had their stores and the bank, the saloon, and once the mining in the area was no more, everybody left. So before 1816, most of the railroads did end at the Mississippi River, but there was a plan called the Transcontinental Railroad to stretch it the entire continent, North America, entire America, United States, from coast to coast, one railroad. So in 1862, the Central Pacific Railroad line was being built from Sacramento, California, expanding eastward, and the Union Pacific Railroad was being built from Omaha, Nebraska, and expanding westward. And the two railroads would eventually link, forming the Transcontinental Railroad. This is the best way to put it. So they had railroads, coming from here, all on the eastern United States, but they needed to finish this. So this is the, the one that's going westward, and this one's the one coming from Sacramento, and they would meet in the middle. Building this Transcontinental Railroad was a massive project, and it would take about 7 years to complete. Thousands of workers would be needed to undertake this. A lot of manual labor, not a lot of power equipment going on. White Americans, African Americans, Mexican Americans were all used in the construction. And the Central Pacific Railroad Company brought 10,000 Chinese manual laborers over from China to assist in the building. The Transcontinental Railroad was very dangerous to build. You were going over mountains. You were, exploding things. You had winds, avalanches, rain that would slow progress. The pay was not great for the workers, but it was a lot of work. But the Chinese laborers, they were experienced in explosives, and they blew up a lot of pads. So finally, in May 10th, 1869, the two railroads lines met in Utah, and the golden spike was struck, and it connected the two railroads with this golden spike that expanded across the United States. That concludes chapter 2, section 2, or chapter 3, section 1.